President Obama on Thursday reversing course on Afghanistan, announcing that thousands of U.S. troops will continue to serve in America's longest war, even after he leaves office. Here to weigh in on that, two members of Congress who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, Democrat Tulsi Gabbard, Republican Adam Kinzinger. Thank you both for joining us this morning. And Congresswoman Gabbard, let me begin with you. You've long said that it's time to bring our troops home. So is the president wrong to put his withdrawal plans on hold?
Yeah, good morning, George. Aloha. You know, I've supported the president's efforts to continue bringing our troops home, and I think it's a good thing that we've gone from having over 100,000 U.S. troops there in Afghanistan to now today having less than 10,000. And looking at the situation on the ground in Afghanistan, we have a continuing increased presence of both ISIS and al-Qaeda. So I agree with the president's decision to keep some of our troops there, primarily to assist the Afghan security forces, both with intelligence as well as with training, as they work to take out our common enemy, the Islamic extremists, ISIS and al-Qaeda. I think it's important, though, as we see some U.S. troops remaining there, that we know exactly what their mission is, that their mission is not to nation build and to create a mini America in Afghanistan. It is to work with the Afghan security forces, again, to take out and defeat our common enemy in ISIS, al-Qaeda, and other Islamic extremist groups.
Congressman Kinzinger, some Republicans, including the candidate you support, Jeb Bush, say that may not be enough troops, is it?
Well, I don't know. The president, with his military experts, has said 9,800 is going to be what it takes. That's fine. I mean, here's the thing. A few years ago, and I give the president credit for reversing strategy here and saying we're going to maintain this presence. But 2 years ago, we could have all predicted this when he said we're going to go down to 5,500 and then just an embassy presence. Seeing what happened in Iraq and then seeing what the situation in Afghanistan, we all knew it was going to happen, which is, to the next point, you know, why the president has to say 9,800 troops and then we're going to go to 5,500 by the time I leave office. At the end of the day, announce a strategy and a way to win. We're going to stay until the Afghan government can stand on its own and not necessarily artificial numbers and artificial timelines. Any reason to think that's anytime soon? No, it's probably not. We're probably going to be there for a while. I mean, look, we're still in South Korea. We still have a presence in Kosovo. We have a presence in a lot of places. So to say we're going to leave 9,800 troops to help the Afghan government be stable, this isn't as Tulsi said, a 100,000 person combat mission, but this is a very important mission in a very important part of the world. And it's one, frankly, I wish the president would have maintained after 2011.
So, Congresswoman Gabbard, is the president wrong to keep any timetable at all?
No, I think you've got to look at exactly what's happening on the ground. I would differ with my colleague Adam Kinzinger, though, that what's happening in Afghanistan is a very different situation than we saw what happened in Iraq. Our pulling out of U.S. troops of Iraq had nothing to do with the strengthening of ISIS and al-Qaeda. What happened in Iraq that strengthened our enemy there was the sectarian Maliki government that persecuted the Sunni tribes and the Sunni communities, and that began while we were still in Iraq and while we still had a strong presence there. I think as we look at Afghanistan, the most important thing that we should be doing is saying exactly what is our mission. You can't have an effective strategy unless you know first exactly what your mission is. And our mission should be to focus on those who attacked us on 9/11 and who continue to wage war against us today.
And that's what the president said on Thursday. Before we go, a couple quick political questions. Congressman Kinzinger, Jeb Bush out this morning saying he has grave doubts about Donald Trump's finger on the nuclear trigger, says he's an actor playing the role of a candidate for president. What do you think of that? And why do you think that Trump is doing so well and your candidate seems to be stuck in the middle of the pack?
Well, look, Trump's tapping into this kind of outsider, mentality, and of course Republicans like the idea of somebody fresh coming in. I think at the end of the day, slow and steady wins the race. Jeb Bush is the guy that's very competent, was a very conservative governor of Florida. And I think he's correct. Look, Donald Trump, when he talks about foreign policy, he doesn't go any further than one layer deep. Talking about basically ceding the Middle East to the Russians is ludicrous. And so I think when people really get to understand beyond what he says on the surface, what he really believes, they'll either see that there's nothing there or it's actually not in line with what Republicans believe in our principles.
And finally, Congressman Gabbard, you had kind of a set to with the chairman of your party, Congresswoman Debbie Wasserman Schultz, saying she's not being honest about why you weren't invited to that debate last week. You seem to be in a dispute over how many debates there should be. Do you think that door is closed now? Are we set with the debate schedule, or do you think there can be more?
First of all, I want to just say I think the facts have come out with regards to the discourse and conversation that happened last week about my being disinvited from the debate, as well as the vice chairs and officers not being included. The facts are out there. I think New York Times and Bloomberg have both reported that. I think that we are hearing a growing number of Democrats and Americans across the country who are calling for more debate, who are calling for getting rid of this exclusivity clause that really punishes our presidential candidates for engaging with different groups and different communities of people across the country who want to host debate, who want to increase the discourse and conversation, who want to engage. And I think we've got to continue to push for that so that we can strengthen our party, strengthen our democracy, and increase the conversation in our country.
Thank you both for your time this morning.
You bet.
Up next is Joe Biden about